clarity, the UPDF statement has only added to the frustration. The Army's denial of custody, human rights advocates say, raises more questions than answers. We are now joined on the line by Amnesty International Kenya Executive Director Irũngũ Houghton, and we're also joined on the line by Benta Ochieng, the sister of Nicholas Oyoo, to talk to us about this. A very good evening, and I'll start greeting you. Benta, I trust you well.
Good evening.
Good evening. And Irũngũ, a very good evening and welcome to Channel Africa.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having us on this evening.
Now, I will start with you, Benta. It's been 3 weeks since Bob and Nicholas disappeared. Can you describe what these days have been like for your family?
It's been very, very difficult for my family, immediate family, my siblings, and even our relatives at large. My mom has been very unwell. She has been experiencing high blood hypertension, this high blood pressure. It's really not been easy. Our relatives have been coming in and out of our homes, trying to find out what's going on. My siblings have been going, knocking on every door that they could, calling everybody that they can to try and get some answers. Yeah.
And when did you last hear from him? What did he say before communication went silent?
On the 29th, that's when we last talked. I had sent him a message giving him plans of me going to visit Kenya because I'm not in Kenya at the moment. And we were congratulating one of my siblings because of his birthday, and Nicholas posted on our family group that he had a book. He actually surprised us. We knew he had another book, but this book that he just released surprised us. And he said, hey, this is my book. It's on Amazon. It's about my life. You'll enjoy reading it. It's a good experience. And everybody was congratulating him. Everybody went to look for the book. We didn't know he was traveling. He had not shared with all of us that he was traveling. He only shared with my mom. That's the last time.
Benta, let me go to Amnesty International's Mr. Houghton. Mr. Houghton, Amnesty has called for UPDF's affidavit deeply unconvincing. From your perspective, what could be at play here?
We, as Amnesty International, we have watched with dismay two denials. The first was from the Inspector General of Police several weeks back, and now we have this affidavit sworn in a court of law by the Ugandan People's Defense Forces. And we just have to push back and say that it is unacceptable that we know that Bob and Nicholas were picked by uniformed officers in broad daylight. They were in Kampala. They had entered lawfully, and they have not been seen for 21 days. So we are placing the blame squarely on the government of Uganda. It may not be necessary for us at this stage to determine which part of the government or the state is responsible, but the state is responsible. We are treating this as a enforced disappearance, and as we go into 3 weeks, we are putting pressure both on the Kenyan government to act to protect its own citizens, but also on the Ugandan government to essentially comply with its own laws and release both Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyoo back to their families. As you've heard from Benta, the anguish that the family has had to go through, it's just unacceptable. It's just not acceptable that in this day and age that people can be abducted in broad daylight by armed individuals in uniforms and held for 21 days. So we have actually called for citizens and people across the world to sign a global petition. We are actually in the process of mobilizing 500,000 urgent alert network members who are volunteers of Amnesty globally, but also Kenyan Gen Z, Kenyan activists, the civil society, the Law Society of Kenya, Vocal Africa, Kenya Human Rights Commission, the entire human rights community are now going to be writing directly by email to the president to demand the release and safe return of both Bob and Nick.
Those are quite a lot of stakeholders, that you're bringing in together. And what has the Kenyan government, in actual fact, said? What, actions have they taken, given the fact that, this is something which is in a neighboring country? I'm sure there is some sort of pressure that they could apply.
Absolutely. I mean, the bilateral relationships between Uganda and Kenya have been very strong for many years. At the recent funeral of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, attended the funeral, I believe, in the place of the President, who is currently unwell. So relationships have been very strong. We had an initial assurance from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that they would take all actions and leave no stone untouched until both Bob and Nick would be returned back to Kenya, or at least that they would have access to consular services and lawyers. As we, to our shock, the two men have been held incommunicado without access to neither consular services from the High Commission in Kampala, nor to lawyers or even to medical practitioners. And of course, the family has not had access to them. So we are continuing now to focus on the Kenya government because we feel that 21 days is too long. Yes, we may have had a state funeral in the last 5 days, but I think now that that is concluded and now that the national government is focused back on matters, we are now demanding that the energies begin to pick up again in the case of these two. So we are actually calling on people, and South Africans can join us in this. They can go to our amnestykenya.org website and click and send a direct email to the President of Uganda and essentially demand for the safe return of Bob and Nick.
Irũngũ, this is the last question to you. What credible evidence or witness accounts do you have that suggest the involvement of Ugandan state agents or security forces in this?
We actually have a very credible eyewitness account, and there have been several informal responses from within the Ugandan government, both within the ministries but also within the law enforcement agencies, that indicate that Bob and Nick are still in Uganda and possibly they're still being held in a military facility just outside of Kampala. So we are treating this essentially as a case of enforced disappearance, which under international law is prohibited. And of course, under Ugandan domestic law, the two men should have been brought to court. If they have committed any offense, they should have been brought to court within 48 hours. That has not happened. We are now into, again, the 21st day of their forced abduction and their solitary confinement.
Now, thank you very much, Irũngũ. Irũngũ, who is Amnesty International Kenya Executive Director. And I'm sure with all the efforts that you have taken to mobilize and get the international community to speak out on this and get a petition running, does really allay the family fears. Thank you very much, Irũngũ. And let me go back to you, Benta. You heard, Irũngũ's side of things and what he has said. As a family, from the strides that Irũngũ spoke about of mobilizing the international community, the efforts that Amnesty is taking, how do you then feel to go on to hear what has been devised?
We feel hopeful, and we're actually very grateful to Amnesty. They've been with us from day one. They've been very vocal about this. They're helping us through this very difficult ordeal. And also they are guiding us so that we can be able to see, guiding us to the right people who are able to help us through this. So we're staying hopeful, we're staying prayerful, and they're just holding our hands as much as they can.
Tell us more. What kind of person is Bob Nicholas, and what should the world know about him beyond the tragic situation?
Well, I don't know much about Bob because I just knew him as a friend to Nicholas. The world knows them as the chair and Nicholas as the Secretary General, who's very well known to go into the walls of the courts seeking justice and trying to correct errors and fighting for human rights. But at home, we just know them as friends. We know Nicholas as a father, a brother, an uncle, a grandfather, and most of all a citizen. And to us, Nicholas is like our hope for our mom. He takes care of my mom. He does everything he can. He takes my mom for appointments. He's my mom's companion. To me, he's one of my best friends because when I was still in Kenya, Nicholas, it was very hard for him to say no. We know him as much as he's the middle child, we know him as we used to call him the moderator or mediator or Nelson Mandela, because he always tries to fight to make sure there's justice. When there's a problem between siblings, he's the one who's going to be like, hey, let's sit down and solve this. Let's work it out. Let's not, grumble and fight about this. Let's do this together. He was that kind of a person. He is that kind of a person. That's what he's been ever since we were kids. And that's why you see he came into becoming a human rights and an activist for change and injustice. Nicholas, anytime I had an issue, if I needed to go anywhere, I would tell Nicholas, hey, I know you're having meetings. Can you take me somewhere? He'll grumble, but he's going to say, hey, what time? Even if he's having meetings, no matter where he is, he's going to make sure he has time for family. And anytime Nicholas works on a job, he's going to use his first paycheck on us, his family. That's the kind of a person he is.
Mm. And, the disappearance, how has it weighed on the family financially?
We have tried as much as we can. We have given as much as we can wherever we are able to. But like I said, Amnesty is holding our hands and have been supporting us. They are the ones who've been organizing a lot of things for us. The press conference, the place to be. They've done so much for us. So they've really helped.
No, it's good to hear this. Anyway, this is where I'm going to have to leave it, Benta. And I'm sure Channel Africa will catch with you in the next couple of days or weeks just to check on how the situation is going. And I'm sure with Amnesty